So thank you for being here on
It's a
our
pleasure.
breakfast
It's a pleasure.
talk. And I would like for you to please start to introduce yourself. You are the founder and one of the brains, I guess, behind this amazing concept, which is Hive Coliv. It's an amazing process. It's an amazing project. First of all, because it's beautiful. I mean, I was there visiting you in November,
It's
and
true, yeah.
I know already I was blown away, and it was what 50% maybe finished. So I can't wait to come back next winter, definitely not
Absolutely.
summer, when it's to see it's finished. And it's the first co-living ground-up space in Dubai. And if I'm not wrong, it's the first co-living place in Dubai also, right?
Yeah, it's the first ground-up development of this nature in Co-Living in Dubai. We
with a rooftop pool. With a rooftop pool and a cinema.
Rooftop cinema.
Please.
So yeah, don't forget about those.
Yeah, please introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit more about this amazing project.
Yeah, cool. Thanks so much for having me, and apologies again for the issues, but we are now, it seems to be working perfectly. Yep. So yeah, as you mentioned, we started Hive. I started Hive about 4 or 5 years ago. And the vision was simple, was to really develop the first tailor-made co-living building in the UAE, really to provide affordable plug-and-play accommodation with community at its center to the residents of Dubai. It was something we felt was really missing in this location. Dubai is a great place. There's a lot of young transient expatriates moving through Dubai. It can be a lonely place. Most people leave family and friends behind. So we thought, what a place to come up with a product like this. And my inspiration was purely my own personal experience when I was 22 and I moved to Dubai and the struggles I went through. So that was a great inspiration and a great driving factor behind it. So yeah, as you mentioned, we've just opened our first building, which has roughly 120 apartments. It's been about 5 years from coming up with a concept to actually opening the front doors. So it's not a quick or easy journey, but it's been super, super rewarding. And we're just happy to be open. We've got people living here. Let me give you a sneak peek. I hope that tech doesn't freak out on us. But yeah, this is our space. I'm phoning you from the lobby. So we've got a couple of residents here. So super, super nice and super grateful for how it's turned out.
Yeah. I mean, when I was there and I visited, I think one of the things that I liked the most was, first of all, I would like to say that I know me and you and I actually joke a lot about it, but I just love how Dubai is a 20-minute city where wherever I was saying, where is that? Just 20 minutes. Just 20 minutes. Yeah, just like 20 minutes up the road. Please, you can take a taxi, you can take the metro, you can take whatever. Just 20 minutes. And it's just so convenient to just hop from one place to another. But what I really love, and just briefly before we actually start to talk about technology, is just how well thought, not just the space that you've created outside for interaction with the community. So you have this amazing space, I think, which is where you are right now. And I think you're putting in I think that's where you're going to put in a live kitchen. I know you have a space downstairs also, which is really large, and it used to be kind of like a car park, but now it's being repurposed, and it's fantastic how you did that. Obviously, the upstairs one with the swimming pool, the cinema, and the chill out area. But I really like how you thought about a different type of accommodation and a different kind within the same building, because I think it's so good that you have the opportunity. For example, you have like studio flats, you have a 1-bedroom flat, you have a 2-bedroom flat. So it's nice because if I want to come and I'm moving in maybe either with a friend or with someone else, or I might just want to have more of a flat than just a room, there is so much opportunities that you can give there. And I think it attracts very different people. And that is, for me, at least,
so true.
You know, I'm a community-driven person. And I think it's nice when the community keeps to be similar-minded on many things, but also quite different. And you attract, it's also nice because then people feel they can stay longer, right? Maybe they become more friends with someone within Hive community, and they say, you know what, why don't we take a 2-bedroom flat? It's here anyway. So it's just the two of us. We have a bit more kind of like intimate space. And I know some of your flats have also really big balconies, which I love. So yeah, it was super.
I think that's it. It started off with us. I mean, we took a lot of inspiration from other, specifically hospitality assets in places like the UK and the US and throughout Europe. And we were always conscious of trying to adapt it for this region and not just copy pasting it. And I think, you know, here in Dubai, certainly people are used to a lot more spacious living solutions. You know, we are in the desert, so you know, a 20 square meter studio is just not a thing in Dubai, you know, so we were quite mindful of adapting it for the local market. And I think, you know, we ended up with a lot of different unit types. So we've got the studios, the 1 beds, the 2 beds, the 4 beds, as you mentioned. And going forward, I think from what we've seen in the current building, I mean, there's just, the use cases are just so varied amongst people, you know, and what one person wants to use a 1 bed for and another person, it's just two completely different things. So we've got such good data now and feedback. And I think that's one of our key assets, exactly what you're saying. We're seeing people move into a studio, progressing into a 1 bed, finding a friend and moving into a 2 bed. So it's great, you know, it works for everyone.
So you just said something which I think is very important, and I fear, unfortunately, sometimes some of the operators still underrate data. You just mentioned data, right? And you just mentioned how now that you've been there for quite a bit, you have all these data. And data can be achieved with technology or without technology, but today we are going to explore a little bit more about technology. So what I would like to ask you is, in which area of your business or whatever you are doing with Hive Coliv or Co-Living also in general, for anyone else who's listening and interested in this, what area do you believe technology is important, and maybe what area it might be the most important thing? It could be tech for operation, tech for community build, it could be energy saving, ESG, anything.
Yeah, look, I think there's different ways to tackle it. I mean, ultimately, tech, for me, it's at the heart of any company. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. Hardware, software, it's at the heart of it. I think if you look at co-living specifically, it's a new asset type, and most of the players in the co-living space are essentially startups. You know, so for us as Hive, we're a startup. We started 4 years ago. And for us, it's all about making sure we operate efficiently. So it's about achieving the most with the smallest possible team. So if you look at Hive, we're a team of 4 people. And therefore, to answer your question, I'd say for me, the tech is the most important when it comes to operations. So in this building, we have 120 tenants. That's 120 lease agreements. That's 120 invoices. That's 120 potential tickets that you can receive on a daily basis. So unless you've got your tech stack set up correctly, you're going to end up with a massively bloated team. You'll just be inefficient, and your runway will just shorten. So I think in co-living specifically, the property management system that you implement is probably the single most important thing when it comes to operations. That'll determine your success. And we're going through that now, and we're learning. We did a lot of research, and we spent a lot of time on that, but nothing will prepare you for once you go live. So we're really learning, we're really adapting with our tech partners and constantly trying to improve. I'll be straight up and very transparent. We're not where we want to be yet. We're still learning, but we'll get there. And I think, you know, the importance we place on the operational side is not to discount the importance from tech in terms of community building also. I mean, that's another very, very important facet of it. And so for us, there's really 2 key verticals when we look at the tech. It's really how can we increase operational efficiency, and how can we really improve the community experience in the buildings.
Yeah, and I also would like to touch on something you just said. You mentioned about how you're nowhere where you want to be. I think it would be impossible. And I think it's actually amazing that in Co-Living and in what we are doing right now, we are also quite humble enough, I'd say actually, so not quite, to actually say, okay, let's be very aware of the fact that what we are doing right now is pretty new. I mean, we're not talking, because there is a very big difference between property management and the property management that we do in Co-Living. It's very different. It's extremely different. So even the property management software, they are also new, and they don't have enough data to say, look, this works, This is what people
This
want.
is exactly, it's exactly the problem that we face, man. Like, if you look at what's out there, you know, there's the old school traditional property management systems that are very, very outdated, very clunky, very capital intensive. Where you see some innovation is in the hospitality space. There's some really cool solutions in the hospitality space, but again, you can't just plug and play, use that for co-living. So we looked at residential solutions, we looked at hospitality solutions, and funnily enough, student accommodation. That's actually one of the sort of use cases that's the most similar. But again, all of these things need tweaking, you know, and I think even from location to location, you know, there's just certain customs of the market, you know, there's certain things that's simply unique to Dubai. So I think choosing your tech partner, or let me backtrack, the decision whether you develop your own tech or partner with someone is probably the single most critical decision from an operational point of view. So, and there's so much to unpack there. I mean, we could be here for days.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I am live from MIPIM right now, and we are in Canada, and a lot of the prop tech talk is so around these sorts of things. Like yesterday, I was on one of the talks, and there was a lady who was so adamant, and they do like property management of like, they have so much assets in Denmark and all that area. And she was really saying, we need more prop tech, which is for residential, but with the tenants at heart. So, you know, kind of like, you know how we say bottom up in a sort of way. So from the center to kind of like go and say, okay, so our tenants want this. Because in Co-Living, we don't even call them tenants. They are members. They're part of who we are. They are developing with us. I think, you know, like, for example, all the people that have moved in to begin with, and they are the first one that came to live in Hive, in a sort of way, they kind of like a bit like funding members, because they will be the ones who will give you, they will propel you into different things. They will come back and say, okay, guys, I know you are new, so let me tell you, I think you should do this. This will be better.
Absolutely, and I think it's important to encourage that. You know, for us, sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to make the point that for us, that's the spirit of the building. We've gone in and we're very straight up about it. You know, we knew we're here to learn, we're here to improve the experience. And so we welcome feedback from tenants. We try and engage with members all the time to try and improve it. And just to touch on your previous points, I think regardless of whether you're in co-living or traditional residential, I think the experience has to change. It's driven by consumers everywhere they go. It has to be digitalized, this whole experience, you know, and I think especially in a place like Dubai, the entire residential rental experience was just woefully outdated, you know, and I think we've seen a lot of innovation in the sort of commercial space with co-working having come through, and the sort of on-demand flexible use of space that introduced. And I think, you know, we're seeing that with co-living in the residential space, with co-living being kind of this vanguard to kind of transition this traditional residential product into a more sort of serviced offering. It's essentially a serviced offering is what it has to become.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we were talking yesterday. They were just saying, okay, well, we've done so much with co-living and flex offices and everything, and now we really need to concentrate on the you know, like kind of like residential more. But so I mean, I love the fact, I knew that since the first time we had that job, but I love the fact that you're so conscious about tech and how to implement it, etc. But beside, you know, like everything that we just said, what I really wanted to ask you as well is, how do you validate the experience when you implement the new technology? So you implement a new technology, beside the fact that you said, you know, you collaborate with your tech partners, and, you know, we need to tweak it and we need to do this one and everything else. How do you validate it? And how do you validate also if it is worth having it, or maybe it's something that could be beneficial but not necessary?
I think in terms of validating it for us, it starts at the sort of decision point in terms of the brief that we come up. So for us, it'll be a case of certain pain points that we're trying to solve. And in that instance, if there's a serious pain point that we're facing issues with, we normally do a brief, discuss that with our tech team, brief them on what the kind of product features are that we're looking to develop out, or what the pain points are that we're trying to solve. Those pain points might be for the team internally, operational issues, or they might be issues related to our members and their experience. And so oftentimes when we do that, we'll come up with a set of objectives, the pain points that we try and resolve, and the framework we'll use. obviously, once it's implemented from that point onwards, it's just about soliciting feedback, be that from our team members or the members living in the building. And so, yeah, from there, more often than not, it's a case of the problem's been alleviated, but might not have been solved entirely. And then from there, we just iterate until the feedback that we get validates that the problem's essentially been resolved.
I mean, it sounds simple, right?
Yeah, I think, I mean, nothing's as simple as just asking the end user ultimately. I think that's the beauty of these concepts. Also, people tell you very quickly. You know, for us, we on the ground, we sit in the lobby, we own the elevators, we in the building, so we get to know pretty quickly if things aren't 100%.
Yeah. I'd also would like to tap on a slightly different, well, it's not really different topic, but it's a topic that, you know, it's present everywhere, and it was really big here at MIPIM as well, which is ESG, right? So would you mind sharing a little bit and just give us a bit of a glance on how you establish ESG in operation and how much technology is actually involved in that? And, you know, is there any particular area where you focus on a well-being, experience, community, anything?
Yeah, I think from a sustainability point of view, obviously, and tech relating to that, it's absolutely crucial, you know. So for us, from an operational point of view, we develop these assets, we own them. So we really have to control it and really have to ensure that we live up to our ESG standards. So for instance, if you take our Hive JVC property, we've invested heavily in a building management system that really allows us to gather the data on all the sort of organs of the building, you know, the systems, the HVAC system, the firefighting, fire alarm systems, the electrical systems, to really not only monitor it, but to also be able to control it. So for us, that was a serious capital investment. And the decision was on the table, whether that's something worth doing or not. For us, we ultimately took a longer term call. You know, once you go operational, something as simple as your utility expenses, your monthly water, electricity, cooling, that could easily hit up to 40% of your operating cost, you know. So for us, that's at the heart of it from an environmental point of view. And then for us also more on the sort of front line, the low-hanging fruits, we also really wanted to make sure that our members really feel that and feel how serious we are about that. So we've got a very cool initiative for which we've partnered with a local startup here, which is on the recycling front, which is something really, really cool that they've done, where all our residents get basically recycling bags for recycling any waste. These bags come with a QR code that's unique to Hive. Once residents dispose of all their recycling, that gets taken away. It's then sorted at the waste plant, with the statistics for each individual resident then captured on our app. So residents can actually go in and have live reporting in terms of how much they're recycling, what's the types of recycling. So that's something really sort of on the ground where people can feel that they are making an impact, you know. So yeah, man, I think in the world that we live in, ESG's got to be at the heart of what you do. So you've got to be very, very conscious of that. So yeah, I think there's the operational side of it, which we talked about, which is really looking at your buildings and making sure your buildings are smarter, because these are assets that, you know, that has a lifespan of 20, 25 years. And then I think there's also just making sure from an operational point for your users and the end users that they also have access to that.
For sure. And is this something that I'm just gonna? I mean, I'll ask you a quick question before we wrap up. Is this something? I really love, first of all, this idea of the recycling with the QR code.
It's very cool, man.
It's pretty awesome.
It's very cool.
Like I would love to check as well. Yeah, that's really cool.
It's just nice to know that what you're doing is actually having an impact, and being able to measure it, I think this makes it so much more real.
Yes, absolutely. Is this something that you felt, or do you feel that your community also demands it? I mean, I know you set it up before, but is this something that you think, okay, if we didn't do it, we would have to implement it after, because our communities and everybody who's coming here right now, they are very conscious about it and they really want it.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, for us, a part of ESG is also the social responsibility. For us, we're really conscious as a brand, as a startup ourselves, we want to support other startups. So we just sort of happened to cross paths with this new startup. We thought it was a great solution, and it's a win-win really for us, for them, and the members of our building. And we jumped at this. But to answer your question more straightforward, we had loads of focus groups with potential tenants during the design stage. And man, people grilled me on the environmental and sustainability measures that we were implementing. So we were very conscious of that, you know, and I think the younger consumers and the people that we have in the building, they're so aware of it, and they demand it.
I like that. I like that you had this kind of group before building. Okay, so quickly before we leave, what's next for you, for Hive? Are we going to see Hive somewhere else in the UAE? Are we going to see it coming to Europe? Is it something happening? Are you not telling us?
No, we're happy. I mean, for us, we want to grow the brand. We don't have any plans for world domination just yet. For us,
not yet.
We're happy to.
I like that. Not yet.
We're happy to focus on the UAE for now. So I think the last 2 or 3 months, we've just been open since January, so we're very new. We've just tried to really learn and absorb as much or as many lessons as possible from this asset. And we've now got a few more that's in the early stages of planning. So yeah, we're looking to expand our footprint and target other areas of Dubai within this 20-minute radius. So yeah, that's hopefully the next year or two for us. We're conscious. We're not trying to conquer the world. As I said, we're really firm believers and supporters of the solution. We really want to be the go-to developer or operator for these kind of assets that really cater to the young and young at heart, looking for flexible plug-and-play living solutions.
Yeah, and circling back to, I mean, the fact that we're here also talking about tech, I think the choice that you make, and please tell me if you disagree, but I think the choice that you make with the tech partner, exactly as you were saying before, at the very beginning, is so important, because you've got to be able to, in a sort of way, trust, but also really talk to your partners and say, okay, you know, these are our growth plans. And I think sometimes, again, this is something that people don't really do as much as some operators, and just say, okay, in an ideal world, this is our growth plan. So, you know, we want to be with the same partner, because then once you've done it on one side, you say, okay, now we replicate it. So I don't want to change my, you know, PMS, my operational, my, you know, anything else that's got to do with your tech. And so I think growing that type of relationship that you were saying and you were mentioning before with your tech partner is something that is crucial. And that's
it's a marriage, man. It's literally a marriage. You're tied to each other. And at the beginning,
you really need to have some time to dedicate to that, and to kind of like being able to find a way to really work together, then you can replicate it.
And I think that just to add on that point, I think for us also, that decision is no longer a once-off decision that you take. I think with the way the space is developing and the amount of innovation coming into the space, it's probably something you have to reevaluate at least twice a year to keep your eye on what other solutions are out there. I mean, migrating is painful, don't get me wrong, but I think as you grow and as new solutions come to market, you continuously have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and also, I mean, let's not forget that technology grows at a pace which is unbelievable, right? It's like something that started like 1 year ago, it's now changing completely, and there are new, as we said, you know, we are pretty new as a market, so there's going to be someone that will come in 2 or 3 years, have a look at everything that we did wrong with technology or what everything else. And then just kind of like moving on and do it better. Hold on a second. There is, I think, a question from Kate. Is there also a group within your team that takes care of the impact of the experience of co-living on people? How to also help in the adaptability to a different way of working and adapting to a new way of living?
Okay, I'm not sure I understand exactly the gist of the question, but for us, I think maybe for us, we have obviously a community management team internally. And so the community management, my team, the entire team in its entirety, actually, try and solicit as much feedback from residents as possible. For us, that's obviously data that we try and look to incorporate in the future designs of our buildings. We have an amazing platform now in terms of, you know, we probably have near on 200 residents living in our building. And so we really want to use this platform to get feedback from our members and to really learn how can we adapt this product. What I'll add to that, and I don't know if it it answers your question exactly, is I think there's a lot of space or a lot of exciting developments that can take place outside of this particular age group or demographic. So if you look at, if you look at young families, I've just recently become a father, so I'm already starting to think, and you're seeing some cool things happening elsewhere in the US with Common and those kind of guys, where people trying to adapt this concept for people in a different life stage, be that young families, be that people nearing retirement. So I think that's super exciting. And I think what's at the heart of all of those concepts is just really taking a more focused approach to who are our tenants, who are our end users, and what exactly do they need, and how do we deliver on that. So it's really weird, because I think it's this mind shift that still has to take place in Dubai. Previously we were trying to design products that would appeal to the broadest range of people to try and capture the biggest possible audience, and so you generally end up with a fairly generic product. And with Hive, we've kind of taken completely the opposite approach. We more of a sort of a sniper, in the sense of really honing in on a specific subset of the population and seeing how do we alleviate their issues. So very, very long answer. I hope somewhere in there I touched on your question. Yeah.
I mean, this is how I interpreted that question too, and I think you replied. Probably my interpretation would be that maybe Keke was more thinking about, which is something that we discussed on anyway.
Keke says her question was answered. Thank you.
That's it. Perfect.
Thank
done.
goodness. You know where to find us if you need more clarity on it.
But I think it's actually, she said something very interesting. I think it's very important that as operators, we also, not forget, again, touching back to what you were saying, that this industry is really new. And so a lot of people still need to be, in a sort of way, educated on what co-living is, on what, how we do things, why community is so important, why community is the key, as I love saying many times. And I think it is also a little bit our responsibility. So well done to you and your team.
Absolutely. It's hard to get right, man. It's super, super hard. It's just, you just have to, you just have to do it through experience. I mean, we constantly trying to learn and trying to improve. And I see we've got someone here who's telling us where we might be able to improve as we speak about it. So yeah, there you go. Case in point. You open a building of this nature, you have 200 units. You're talking about, 1,000 people coming to view these units, responding to queries, complaints. So yeah, man, it's a lot to take on, and you've just got to try and improve one step at a time, I guess.
Absolutely. The same as everything else. So the same as how we try to get to the live this morning.
Exactly. Sorry, we're 15 minutes late, but we got there. We got there, man.
It doesn't matter. Everything is a trial and error, right? And I can see that many people are still live and they've enjoyed. We had a lot of interaction, so that's really good. So I just really wanted to thank you very much for.
It's a pleasure, man. Good to catch up with you, and thanks for everyone tuning in. Really cool discussion.
And everything else. Yeah, and on a personal note, did you just say something about becoming a father?
Yeah, man, fatherhood is real. It's happened to me a couple of weeks ago. So new father, newborn baby at home.
Congratulations!
So, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
What a year for you, this one.
I know. Dad to the most beautiful girl in the world. So
all your babies in the same year. Well, congratulations. Yeah. I really didn't know. So really, congratulations to you and your partner, and may the best we be with you, or whatever people say when they have kids. So,
something like that. Cool,
okay. And thank you very much again.
Thanks so much, man. Cool.
Bye.
Ciao, everyone. Bye.